Welcome to our channel. Tonight, we will take you into a very tense and gripping story entitled Footprints in the Forbidden Land. Imagine a forest so dark and mysterious, where shadows with red eyes stalk your every step. 5 friends looking for adventure end up facing their worst fears when they get lost and are chased by supernatural creatures who thirst for their fear. Will they make it out alive, or will darkness swallow them forever? Get ready to feel every second of terror and suspense in a horror story you will never forget. Grab your seat, turn on the lights if you dare, and let's begin this thrilling adventure. Enjoy Footprints in the Forbidden Land. Amidst the cheerful atmosphere, Alex, Emma, Jake, Lily, and Noah gather at Alex's house, planning their adventure. Alex, who was an adventure enthusiast and led this group, checked the maps and notes they brought. "Listen, guys," Alex said as he opened an ancient map. "This forest is known as the Forbidden Lands. There are many strange stories about this place, but I think they are just myths." Emma, who was known for her high spirits, exclaimed with enthusiasm, "I read a lot about this place. There are stories about spirits that haunt the forest and take the souls of those who come. Sounds stressful." Jake, ever the pragmatist, shook his head. "We'll just camp there. We can go home at any time if we feel uncomfortable. After all, it's just folklore." That night, they got ready with camping gear and equipment for their adventure. The atmosphere at Alex's house was full of laughter and joy. They discussed their itinerary excitedly, promising to take photos and record videos throughout their trip. Outside, the night wind blew hard, and the sky was starting to darken. While they were having fun, the sky outside looked increasingly dark and cloudy, as if warning them of impending danger. However, their enthusiasm was unwavering. They had decided to continue with their plan. The next morning, the group arrived at the edge of the forest full of excitement. The forest looked like something out of a horror story, with tall, dense trees and a gloomy atmosphere. The sun was shining outside the forest, but the forest itself seemed dark and cold. "Let's get started," Noah called, lifting his backpack and leading the way into the forest. "There is a trail here, so we won't get lost." They started to enter the forest, and as they got deeper, the sunlight grew dimmer. Strange forest noises began to be heard, unusual birds chirping, and the sound of footsteps that seemed to follow them. Lily, who was at the back, felt uncomfortable and pulled her jacket closer. "Time to set up camp," Alex said, marking out a large enough area among the trees for their campsite. They started setting up tents and making campfires, trying to distract themselves from the uneasy feeling that was starting to emerge. When night fell, the atmosphere changed drastically. The forest, which was previously just gloomy, now looked scary. Strange sounds became increasingly clear. Soft whispers and invisible footsteps made the atmosphere even more tense. Jake tried to lighten the mood by joking, "Maybe it's just animal noises. Do not worry about it." However, Lily couldn't hold back her fear. "I feel like someone is watching us," he said in a trembling voice. "Don't you guys feel that something is wrong here?" Emma tried to calm Lily. "It's probably just our fear. This forest may seem strange, but we must remain calm." They sat around the campfire, trying to relax, but the tension between them was growing. Every time they opened their eyes, they felt as if there was a dark shadow outside the tent. But when they came out to check, there was nothing there. As they slept, the atmosphere in the tent became increasingly tense. The sounds of the forest became clearer and more intense. Every time they hear an unusual sound, they wake up and wonder at each other. Are they just imagining things, or is there something truly threatening them? As the night progressed, the atmosphere in the forest became more frightening. Alex woke up from his sleep and heard strange noises outside the tent. He shook Emma and Jake. "I heard something outside. Let's check it out." They came out of the tent, walking carefully with flashlights. The sounds they heard became clearer, like whispers they couldn't understand. They followed the sound and found unusual footprints around their camp. "These don't look like normal animal tracks," Jake said, examining the tracks carefully. "These are larger and look like human tracks, but not like the tracks we are used to seeing." Emma felt increasingly anxious. "We have to go. I don't like what's happening here." Alex tried to calm everyone down. "We haven't found anything threatening. Maybe it's just a wild animal." The night was getting late, and they returned to the tent with a feeling of discomfort that continued to bother them. They tried to sleep but find it difficult to get comfortable. Every little sound, every sway of the wind kept them awake, and they felt as if something evil was watching them. When dawn broke, the group woke up anxious. Lily wasn't in her bed. "Lily?" Emma shouted, trying to wake her friends. "Lily, where are you?" They checked the entire area around the camp, calling Lily's name frantically. No answer. The footprints found earlier now appeared even clearer, traces that seemed to lead deep into the forest. "He's probably lost," Noah said, trying to think positively. "We have to look for it." For hours, they searched the entire forest, shouting Lily's name and trying to find any sign of her. The forest seemed as if it was swallowing them up, and every time they stopped to rest, they felt as if something was lurking out of the darkness. Finally, they gave up and returned to camp in despair. "He can't be far from here," Jake said, looking tired and discouraged. "We must report this to the authorities." Night fell quickly, and the atmosphere in the forest grew increasingly gloomy. They feel trapped in a situation they cannot control, and feelings of hopelessness overwhelm them. They knew that Lily might be in danger, but they didn't know what to do to save her. Jake finds an old journal hidden in a small cave while searching around. The journal appeared to be very old, with a worn cover and almost torn paper. He took it back to camp and started reading. "This appears to belong to a ranger," Jake said, reading it carefully. He listed all the bad experiences that happened here. Emma and Noah approached, curious about what Jake had found. "What is written there?" Emma asked, her voice shaking. "The journal describes the Shadow Guardian, an evil spirit that inhabits the forest and is known as a hunter of souls. According to the records, the Shadow Guardian will claim victims who enter its territory and control their minds. Every time someone tried to escape, the spirit would pull them back." Emma read in a trembling voice, "We have to get out of here immediately. This can't be a coincidence." Jake nodded, horrified by what he was reading. "We need to do something. If we stay here, we might suffer the same fate as Lily." They begin looking for a way to fight the Shadow Guardians, trying to follow the clues found in the journal. However, they felt increasingly depressed and frightened as terror increased around them. As night fell, the terror intensified. Emma and Noah begin to show signs of mental illness, with strange behavior and talking to themselves. Emma is often seen daydreaming and talking about shadows following her, while Noah becomes very paranoid and can't sleep. Strange noises became more frequent, with whispers and laughter of unknown origin. Dark shadows seemed to be moving outside the tent, and they felt as if something was keeping an eye on them. "Emma, what are you looking at?" Jake asked, trying to calm Emma, who looked scared. "Those shadows," whispered Emma in a trembling voice. "They are stalking us." "I can feel it. They're approaching, Jake. They are getting closer." Alex, who was usually calm, now looked worried. "We have to find Lily and get out of this forest as quickly as possible. This is no longer an adventure. This is a nightmare." Noah, increasingly paranoid, begins tearing up their tent and looking outside, trying to find the source of the sound. "I heard footsteps," he said. "They are everywhere. We're surrounded." When morning came, they discovered new footprints leading to the deepest part of the forest. Carefully, they followed the trail, hoping to find Lily. They arrived at a clearing surrounded by dark, old trees. In the middle of clearing, they discovered something terrible. Lily's body lay on the ground, her eyes wide open in an expression of frozen fear. Emma screamed and ran towards Lily, but Alex stopped her. "Do not come close. This might be a trap." However, they couldn't just leave Lily behind. Jake examined Lily's body and found unusual marks, bite marks and scratches that did not resemble those of an animal or a human. "We have to report this," Jake said firmly. "This is not an accident. Something here is hunting us." That night, they decided to try to escape from the forest. However, the more they tried to leave, the more lost they felt. Strange sounds were getting closer, and they felt as if they were being surrounded by shadows. Alex, who was leading the group, tried to stay calm. "We have to stay together. Don't be separated no matter what happens." However, the shadow guard seemed to be toying with them. Every time they moved, the sound of footsteps and whispers got closer. They saw black shadows with red eyes stalking from the trees, making them feel as if they were under constant surveillance. Emma, who couldn't take it anymore, ran frantically in the wrong direction, screaming in fear. I can't! I can't do it anymore! Jake and Alex ran after Emma, but they lost track of her in the darkness. Noah, who was left behind, heard a whispering voice inviting him to follow. Come on, Noah. Follow us. Everything will be fine, whispered the voice. Noah, affected by his fear, started walking towards the sound, deeper into the forest. When Alex and Jake found Emma, they found her crouched on the ground, crying hysterically. I saw them. That shadow. They are everywhere. Jake hugged Emma, trying to calm her down. We'll get out of here. We have to survive. They returned to their campsite and realized that Noah is missing. The atmosphere became increasingly tense, and they felt hopeless. Alex opens an old journal they found, looking for the final clue to fighting the Shadow Guard. According to the journal, the only way to defeat the Shadow Guardian is to face his greatest fear and refuse to give in to the terror created by the spirit. This doesn't make sense, Alex said in a weak voice. How can we deal with something we cannot see? When night falls, they decide to confront the Shadow Guard. They gathered around the campfire, encouraging each other. The sounds of whispers and laughter were getting closer, and they felt as if the shadows were everywhere. We can't let them win, Jake said in a firm voice. We have to stay together and not give up. The shadows were getting closer, and they could feel the Shadow Guard's presence getting stronger. Emma held Jake's hand tightly, trying to contain her fear. Look at me, Jake said, looking at Emma. We can overcome this. We have to believe. When a black shadow with red eyes appeared in front of them, Alex stood up straight. We are not afraid of you, he shouted loudly. We will fight. The Shadow Guard approaches, but the light from the campfire seems to weaken its power. With unexpected courage, they stood together, facing the shadow. The black shadow seemed hesitant, as if the light of the campfire was affecting him. Emma, feeling new strength from her friend's courage, stood tall and faced the image. We will not run, he said in a trembling but firm voice. We will not give in to fear. The black shadow began to fade, and the whispering sound grew weaker. They felt the power of the evil spirit begin to fade before their courage. We can do it, Jake said, feeling renewed enthusiasm. We have to stay together and not let fear control us. That night, they managed to repel the Shadow Guard with their bravery. When dawn broke, they felt great relief. The previously dark and scary forest now looked calmer. They found their way out of the forest more easily. Even though there was still some lingering fear, they felt stronger after facing such terror. They knew they had to immediately report what happened to the authorities and make sure no one else entered the forest again. When they reached the edge of the forest, they were greeted by the sound of birds and warm sunlight. They felt as if they had been through a long nightmare. We did it, Alex said in a relieved voice. We made it out. Emma smiled weakly, but we can't forget what happened here. We must ensure that this place remains closed forever. Upon their return to town, they reported the incident to the authorities. The forest was closed and heavily guarded, with warnings about the dangers it contained. Even though they made it out safely, they knew that the experience would be imprinted in their memories forever. They learned the power of courage and friendship in the face of darkness. However, in the deepest corners of their hearts, they knew that the Shadow Guard might still be there, waiting for the next victim who dared to enter the Forbidden Land. This is the end of our story this time. Thank you for watching the scary story, Footprints in the Forbidden Land. In this story, we learn about courage and the power of friendship that can overcome even the most frightening darkness. However, even though they managed to get out of the forest, the terrifying experience would forever be imprinted in their memories. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for other horror stories. Also, share this story with your friends who like suspenseful stories. See you in the next video, and remember, in every dark shadow, there may be something lurking. Stay alert and always have the courage to face your fears. Good night and sweet dreams, if you can.